Yeah, lively one in Sky Bet League 2 where we had the bottom four all taking each other on across two fixtures. But we're going to start with the 4 goals scored by two teams. One, Accrington beating Swindon 4-0, and then Tranmere at Bristol Rovers winning 4-1. George, how about Aki thumping Swindon?
Yeah. Swindon have obviously had a magnificent start to the season, and this was just one of those days where basically everything went wrong. Paddy Madden, the first goal when it was 11v11 was just a wonderful lob from way downtown after 8 minutes. One of those goals where kind of sometimes happens to players like Madden where he's obviously lost a lot of what he had, but sometimes you see them just offer a glimmer, and this day was kind of that. The first goal in particular.
I've feel like I've seen him score that a couple of times before. I don't know if he has or not, but it felt like a lovely bit of Paddy Madden.
And then the red card came, which probably was the decisive point within the game. Although, having said that, Swindon did very, very little in the first half when it was 11v11. With Ollie Clark being sent off. On first viewing, I thought it looked really harsh. It kind of felt like the Accrington attacking player, I'm not entirely sure who it was, just ran into Clark. But on second viewing, you can kind of see that Clark knows he's not going to get towards the ball. And I'm going to stop short of saying that any arms were thrown, but I think he knows exactly what he's doing. He very much plays the man rather than actually trying to play the ball. It's one of those where Swindon fans will think it's a terrible decision. Accrington fans will think it's a definite red. I think I probably lean towards the Accrington side, but then, hey, I'm an Oxford fan. And then in the second half, Swindon had some decent opportunities at 1-0 to get back into the game, mainly from set pieces. Ollie Palmer had one header saved, and then because Swindon had to throw loads of men forward, and because they were down to 10 men, Accrington then caused havoc really on the break. Heath with a really good assist for Madden to make it 2-0. Madden then with a very nice assist for Heath to make it 3-0, and then Madden got his hat-trick to take home the match ball in injury time. I said it before, really like Isaac Heath. I think he looks really fun, a versatile attacking left-sided right-footed player who just likes to get on the ball and drive forward. We know that Accrington have had a lot of success with their loans, and I'm pretty sure he's one of these guys who they've done very, very well to get him to League Two, who'll improve as the season goes on. So yeah, big win for Aki. For Swindon, I guess it's just a case of drawing a line through it, telling yourselves it's because of the red card, hosting Notts County in midweek in a solitary League Two game. But as we've spoken about now, we'll see what Swindon are all about, because their fixtures from here on: Notts County, Colchester, game against Tranmere at home, Fleetwood. It feels like, again, not the toughest games, but harder games now than they've had for the most part this season so far.
Bristol Rovers 1, Tranmere Rovers 4. I'm going to start by quoting Oscar Wilde. To concede 4 at home in a league game, Bristol Rovers may be regarded as misfortune. To concede 4 at home in a league game twice in a row, well, that looks like carelessness. Especially when it's a Tranmere side winless in 7 as they travelled southwest. But let's celebrate the fact that Tranmere won their first game after 7 without, and they did so very, very impressively. A kind of one of those away performances that starts off industrious, I'd say, making sure that you are at it, that you're involved in winning the duels, the second balls, setting the foundation, if you like. Going ahead with a goal from your centre-back, Nathan Smith, nice flicked header after 33 minutes. And then after half-time, maybe just realising at half-time, I actually think, I didn't come into this game thinking we were going to be the better side, but I think we might be the better side here by some distance on the day, and making the most of that. The second half was full of confidence. It was just a comprehensive win, like a thumping away win. Connor Jennings with the second, Connor Jennings with the third, Josh Davison with the fourth. They had a dozen other shots in the second half, and they just completely flattened Bristol Rovers. So I suppose that's amazing. It's an incredible performance. I'm very, very impressed. As I often say, the message now to Tranmere is do it again, right? Chesterfield next up, then Accrington. That was class, but was it a one-off, or can you repeat that performance? That's what I'd like to know. For Bristol Rovers, not ideal. I'm wondering how worried we are here. Because they were leading at Walsall a couple of weekends ago, 1-0 up. that would have made it 8 unbeaten. It would have made it seem like the early season flaws, which were looking shambolic defensively, just gaps everywhere being exploited by all opposition. That would have made it look like those flaws had been sorted, those gaps had been plugged. But they go on to lose that game 2-1 at Walsall. Then they lose 4-0 to MK. And then they lose 4-1 at home again, this time to Tranmere. Yeah, they're going to need some gritted teeth and some hard work here, Bristol Rovers, because that really puts paid to a good unbeaten run. And very concerning performance level, particularly defensively, and an attack that just never looks consistently strong. We've had Caven scoring goals. He had a good chance here that he flashed wide. Other than that, as a unit, still lots to improve on. George, the bottom four did all play against each other. Shrewsbury 1, Crawley 0, and then Newport 0, Cheltenham 2. Tell me about that Shrews win.
Yeah, a day that everything went wrong for Crawley and everything went right for Shrewsbury, who are improving, certainly in terms of their results. Crawley thought they'd taken the lead through Harry McCurdy. Flagged offside. I've paused it. It looks incredibly tight. But that went their way, and then McCurdy got himself sent off for a second yellow, where he basically loses the ball. It's either fine or it's really bad, if you know what I mean. Like it's kind of hard to see, where it looks on first viewing as if he's trying to block the ball, but he does a leap up with the stud showing, and I wonder if maybe when the camera's gone, the contact with the Shrewsbury player might be more severe than we could see. I mean, he looks unsurprisingly absolutely devastated as given. And then Will Boyle scores from a set piece for Shrewsbury to make it 1-0 later on in the game. Crawley had some opportunities in the dying moments to make it 1-0, but were unable to take them. So, by no means convincing for Shrews, but it feels like they're a club that will improve for good performances, but it will improve for good results, basically, and that's kind of what they're starting to get. They've pushed themselves up to 12 points this season now with 3 wins. Have won back-to-back games, having beaten Cambridge last time out, with Boyle scoring in both. And it's funny because with Appleton, he's been so good in the past at finding these young gem players and bringing them through and making them better and improving them. But he's kind of turning now. It's almost gone full circle, where he's turning to players that he's worked with in the past, who once upon a time, were those kind of players. We had Josh Ruffles coming off the bench for Shrewsbury, having signed for them. Chuck Saneke, who he'd have managed for a pretty ill-fated spell, but a player he'd known pretty well at Charlton. Scully playing on the left-hand side of the front three, and this experienced group are starting, you'd think, to improve. So some positive signs for Shrewsbury. A bit concerned about Crawley, who started the season poorly, looked much better, and now they're looking quite poor again. Albeit,
yes.
Not too many issues, I would say, necessarily in the performance here when 11v11.
An unserious football team. Newport 0, Cheltenham 2. Cheltenham ending a 7-game away win drought with their first clean sheet on the road this season. Only their second in 2025. Their first away clean sheet in 2025. Yeah, that was at Newport. And this is massive for them, and a continuation of the good vibes that Steve Cotterill is bringing. The first goal is from Luke Young. It's a volley. And I don't care if it's an error from the keeper to give away possession of the ball when you're out of goal. The technique from Luke Young to hit a first-time volley at basically thigh height, back the other way, into the corner. I watched that and I thought, give me a bit more of that, please. And Luke Young said, okay, mate, I will. Because although Whitmore went close for Newport and hit the post at 1-0, in the 60th minute, cometh the hour, cometh the volley man. A ball half-headed clear, and Luke Young sends it back, first time, out the sky, struck sweetly into the corner. And I just love it. I love it. So sweet, so nice, such good technique. Our favourite football watching bar, The Volley, was named after Luke Young. They win a big one, Cheltenham, here, thanks to these two volleys, and deserved it. a deserved win, I think it's fair to say, for Cheltenham. Isaac Hutchinson had gone close in the first half and continues to look excellent. Ethan Archer with quality and industry as well this season in attacking areas. I'm very taken by this Cheltenham Cotterell thing that they've got going on, George, to the point where I'm at the in-laws this weekend and they're about an hour away from Cheltenham, and Cheltenham have Walsall at home, and I have not run this by either Mrs. Maxwell or the mother-in-law, or indeed the grandmother-in-law, if that's a phrase, whose presence is kind of quite a big deal this weekend. But I've got to get to that, don't I? I've got to get away, get there, watch the game, drive home, see if anyone notices.
Basically, what you need is a Cheltenham Town fan listening to invite you, and then you've got to go. It'd be rude not to.
Brilliant.
So, FGR Roberto, if you're listening, get in touch with Ali and invite him to the game.
Grimsby beat Gills 1-0 in a game full of incident.
Yes, spicy game, this one. 2 red cards for Gillingham in this game. Hutton with the first, quite a weird red card. Where
very weird.
I just don't think you can say this as denying a clear goal scoring opportunity.
No,
where
I agree.
They're like wrestling on the floor, and yeah, like it looks like Jay Scabbier is going to get up before Hutton. It looks like he's probably then going to have some space to run into, and Hutton basically grabs him by the torso and kind of stops him from getting up and moves him back to the ground again before the defenders come in. But given that he's kind of on the floor when fouled, it's hard for me to say that he's about to and he's about 40 yards from goal. I think a yellow card here probably would have sufficed. But either way, Hutton is sent off, and Grimsby then just have loads of opportunities and loads of chances and loads of the ball, and Gillingham are trying to stay resolute, but give away a penalty, which Vernon converts. So Cabia off pens, unsurprisingly now after his issues with them. It was quite funny. I watched him to see how he'd react to the goal, and it was definitely a more muted celebration than you'd expect to see from someone when Vernon scores. But then he has to play quite a big part because Vernon starts celebrating, and then suddenly he turns around to Bradley Dack. I don't know what had happened between those two, but he's got his finger raised and he's shouting at Dack. And then because Jay Scabbier hadn't run off to the corner with the others, he then has to turn into the peacemaker to prevent Vernon from basically confronting Dack. So not sure what happened there, but more spice 5 minutes later with Johnny Williams given a second yellow and sent off too. So Gillingham had to play the last half an hour or so with 9 men. Often, playing 11v9, it's hard to look that good because obviously the team playing against just have 9 men behind the ball. Town had a couple of opportunities where they could have made it. They could have scored more, but were unable to do so. But it didn't really matter because they never really came under any threat themselves until I think it was Mackenzie had a header right at the death that was tipped over the bar, which would have been a ridiculous eventuality to this game had Gillingham nicked a point with 9 men. But yeah, Grimsby back to winning ways with a decent enough performance, but a good win for Gillingham.
1 point
Tough
in 4
scenes.
games.
Yeah,
for the
I know.
Unbeatable Gills.
And it's obviously frustrating that it's coming at a time where the manager isn't in the dugout. But struggling at the moment to find the good performances needed to win games of football.
MK Dons beat Crewe 3-1, and I feel like the old cliche, they didn't have to get out of third gear to win this one, applies here. That's certainly what it looks like.
Is it first gear?
I actually thought it might be second gear, so we're going to need an adjudication panel on this. Didn't have to get out of...
I'd say third gear is quite like, having to get out of first and second to win.
Third gear out of... Yeah, but most cars have... The way I'm looking
5.
at it is most cars have 5, or now probably 6 in the modern vehicle. So third is still like that's like out. You are not doing anything more than like the average performance in order to win 3-1. I think it works either way. They definitely had to get out of first gear. That's ridiculous. Like there's no game at this level where you can win in first gear. I'm pretty confident of that. You've still got to win your duels and your second balls.
Maybe
George.
the saying just depends on each individual case. Which gear were they in?
What do you guys reckon?
They couldn't get out of.
Let us know in the comments. Would you say a team didn't have to get out of first, second, third, or indeed fourth gear if they win 3-1 in a home game in Sky Bet League 2? Anyway, the point stands. Collar scored after 23, Gilby after 41, Gilby after 57. All sweet strikes from good goal-scoring central midfielders. No surprise to see those two doing well. But Crewe defending left a lot to be desired, I think it's fair to say. Did pull one back later on in the game, but yeah, didn't have to get out of third gear. And I think that kind of sums up the season so far for MK Dons. They've got 24 points from 13 games. It's their best start to a season since 2018-19 and 2014-15. Both of those seasons ended in promotion. And yet I feel like no one's that impressed by them because the expectations were very, very high. So how many gears do MK have? Because I think they've only used 3 so far and they're on 24 points from 13. For Crewe, it was 2 steps forward with wins against Notts and Harrogate, wasn't it? And now 2 steps back with defeats to Bromley and MK Dons. George, a couple of 1-0s in it?
Yeah, Salford City didn't have to get out of second gear to beat Oldham Athletic 1-0. Thanks to a Daniel Udo goal. It came off the back of a Kadeem Harris missed penalty after 15 minutes or so. Will Sutton was sent off kind of midway through the second half for Oldham. Oldham had a couple of opportunities. Young made some decent saves, but this was all about Salford, who were very good going forward. 29 shots they had, 8 on target, an XG of 3.83. Just kind of relentless pressure. I didn't really see this coming, if anyone listened to the betting show. But Salford, putting aside their recent poor results and putting in a very strong showing here against a decent Oldham team who are still struggling to find a way to pick up points. And Salford nearly made it 2-0 with Fabio Barini nearly scoring a diving header in the last minute. Yes,
of course.
Fabio Barini, who has come in, who's joined the club after a couple of seasons at Sampdoria. Like, what a ridiculous signing that is. Not necessarily good, just crazy. I love that Carl Robinson, who's a big Liverpool fan, I think when an ex-Liverpool player comes up, he must just really struggle not to be like, yes, we'll have him, please. Thank you very much. And then the Barnet against Notts County. Barnet beaten here. But if there is a game all weekend where I would say ignore the scoreline, do not revise your opinion on a team off the back of one game, it would be Barnet, because they were good. They had the better chances basically in the whole game. Unlove in particular had a good chance in the first half that was really well saved by Kelleroos in goal for Notts County. Notts County really struggled to create much. Hall did hit the woodwork early in the second half, but for the most part it was Barnet who were putting on the pressure and having the opportunities. But that man Hall found himself, Tyrese Hall, on the left-hand side. It was one of those where he would have been offside, but the shot was deflected into his path and therefore it didn't really matter. And he was able to divert the ball home right to the death to make it 1-0. Massive frustration for Barnet, who will feel like they didn't deserve to lose this game at all. But Notts County will feel like, they deserve credit for sticking in the game, riding out some difficult moments and then taking their chance when it came. And that is a continuation of a really good run of form for Martin Patterson's team, who, as I say, go to Swindon on Tuesday night. And if they can win that, then they'll properly insert themselves as a team that we have to look out for in League 2 if they're beating that calibre of team.
Another terrific Dean Brennan post-match interview. He said, "We were excellent without the last little bit, without the icing on the cake. We made a nice cake, but we didn't get to eat it in the end. It got smashed in our face right at the end."
I absolutely love him.
What a man. Now, the good thing is there's a couple more really interesting games for me to tell you about. The bad news is George actually has to go catch a train to go to Colchester to visit Colchester United and their community trust and to do some filming as part of our partnership with the Sky Bet EFL Building Foundations Fund. I think you're going to see the gaffer, Danny Cowley, aren't you?
Danny Cowley, and we're told a couple of players. I won't say who they are just in case that changes. But yeah, really excited to go down there to see the work that the trust are doing around. Well, I'll wait until the content's
Tell us about
out.
it next week.
Exactly. But looking forward to seeing Danny, who is of course an old colleague of ours from EFL on Quest days, and a great man and a lovely person to spend some time with. So yeah, excited, but I've got to go because I've got a train to catch, and it is pouring rain, so I'm going to be wet. And also the session's outside, so that's going to be fun. Bye bye.
Not a problem for me to talk to the listeners solo, as you know. Go out.
I reckon there's another hour of this podcast still to come.
So, guess who hasn't got a train to catch? This guy. Let me tell you about Colchester. They won 3-1 against Harrogate. And it's, I think just a couple of weeks ago, Cole, you just decided, should we just be really fun instead of drawing 2/3 of our matches. Let's just have a laugh for a few weeks. And it's working really well. 3-1 win against Harrogate from behind makes it 3 wins in a row, all high scoring performances, exciting performances. And just a weird quirk of a stat, Harry Anderson scoring a hat-trick in the first half means that in 2 straight home league games, a Colchester player has scored a first half hat-trick. Not Luke Payne, Jack Payne it was 2 weeks ago, and Harry Anderson here. Another good stat from this was Simon Weaver taking charge of his 700th league match for Harrogate Town, which is quite remarkable when you think about it. They went ahead, a lovely finish from Stephen Duke McKenna yet again, no surprise, we've been saying that quite a lot this season, but then just a cold chest tsunami. Anderson with the first, Anderson with the second, Anderson with the third. Good finishing, good desire to get into goal scoring positions, but also loads of good movement, speed and skill from his teammates, Lisby and Payne and Bick. There's a lot of standout players for Colu at the moment, and that's really exciting. And Danny Cowley absolutely loves Harry Anderson. He's had him at multiple different clubs. He's basically his second favourite son after his actual son. Also, fun fact, if you didn't know, Danny Cowley's daughter is on the books at Arsenal. Which is pretty cool, and I think has represented England at youth age level. So, yeah, Cowley, remember the name. What else did we have? We had Cambridge beating Bromley by 2-1. I was chuckling to myself when I saw Shane Lavery scoring early on FOTMob. It describes the goal, breaks down the goal, and it said he'd scored this with what they describe as other body parts, which instinctively I thought the man we call the Truffle Pig had scored with his snout. Instead, it was sort of his midriff, if you like, a shot that just hit Lavery on the ground and flew into the net. He had no qualms about claiming it and running off celebrating like he'd scored a worldie, which I love. The second goal, Kylian Kouassi, hello to you, sir. Receiving the ball back to goal, rolling the centre-back, and then just smashing it into the top corner. It's sort of brawn, heft, skill, technique, quality. I mean, that is everything I want from my 6'4" target man at League 2 level. Really, really good goal. So 1 each for Cambridge's strikers. Michael Cheek inevitably scored, and what a lovely goal it was too, making a lot out of a long punt forward and lobbing the keeper, but Cambridge saw it out pretty well. And I think they're following quite a nice blueprint. Cambridge, pottering under the radar a little bit compared to some of the teams at the very top of the division, but setting a nice platform, I'd say, for a good long season. They've got a good defence, first and foremost. They've got a solid midfield, lots of experience in there. And Panzu and Ball started. Corey Smith coming off the bench. They've got some lively wide players. Adam Mayer, Sully Kaikai, Brophy was off the bench here, but contributes plenty when he starts. And then up top is where it's not their strongest area of the pitch, albeit they were the match winners here. Kouassi and Lavery, on paper and when they are playing together, it looks like a great fit. Little and large, target man and Truffle Pig. Neither of them are historically consistent. Lavery, in terms of staying fit for a long period of time, not consistent. When it comes to scoring goals, pretty consistent. Kouassi, lots to like as a target man, very inconsistent, hit and miss in front of goal, but again, played really well here. So if they could stay fit, those two, and play up top together for most games, there's a lot to be excited about for this Cambridge side, I would suggest. And then one of the surprise results of the EFL weekend was Barrow beating Walsall 2-1 at the Bescot. Battle of the best mates, Matt Sadler and Andy Wing going head to head. It reminds me a bit of a game if me and George were managing two teams. I think this is how it would play out. George's team would win the XG battle, the sort of moral victory, if you like, but my lot would win the battle, the points battle, the wins battle. It's a shame George isn't here to reply to that. It was smashy grabby, let's be honest, but it was always going to be. And I think doing this is what's going to take Barrow higher up the table rather than be a bottom six team, which is what for a period it looked like they were. They didn't attack loads. They didn't have loads of territory. But when they did attack and foray forward, they did so smartly and scored a really nice goal. Whitfield with the cross for Newby. They got a red card, Lewis Shipley, not ideal, but they handled it fairly well. And they just gritted their teeth and kind of just got through it, right? Took the other opportunity that they had with Charlie McCann putting them 2-0 up, and then just weathering storms, basically. Our mate Daniel Kanu scored a nice goal on the turn inside the box, but 10 saves from Will Stanway. and one off the post from Aaron Presley meant that Barrow win. Andy, Wings, Barrow win against Matt Sadler's Saddlers. They're 5 unbeaten in that run, 2 away wins and a draw away from home as well. 3 clean sheets. I think Wing deserves a lot of credit because they lost 6 of their first 8 league games, Barrow, and those results, had they continued, would have seen him sacked possibly by now. But he has turned it around, he and this group of players, and they deserve an awful lot of credit for that. We also had Chesterfield drawing 1-1 at home with Fleetwood. Big Will Davis did a big Will Davis header to put Fleetwood ahead, and then little Dylan Markanday did a nice little Dylan Markanday goal to make it 1-1. I want to see more of that from Markanday. He can be one of the league's best players, but he needs to do it week in, week out. A bit of huffing and puffing in the second half for Chesterfield, putting the pressure on as you'd expect, but Fleetwood shut the game down pretty nicely for a well-earned point. A deserved point, I think we could call it. And that's a nice place to finish. What a great weekend.